Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to create really great portrait lighting in just 3 steps. Now this is perfect if you're a new photographer and this is your first time in a studio taking portraits, or if you're an experienced photographer and you just want something that works. I'm going to show you how to control your camera settings so you get no flash, no picture, how to set up the light, which is to get it as really close to your subject as possible and get the exposure right, and finally, how to make the background brighter and darker, all just using one single light. Now, the light I'm going to use, this is a flash-based tutorial, and I'm using a flash point speed light. Now, when it comes to setting up a speed light, here's a really good tip. You want the beam of light to go as wide as possible, so I'm going to pull out the little diffusing panel and pop back in the bounce card. We don't need that. Then I'm using the Glow S bracket here, which means I could put an umbrella through here. A shoot-through umbrella would work absolutely fine for this setup. Personally, I prefer a softbox, so if you have a softbox, that's the one to go for. And this is your classic 90 by 60 centimeter, 2 foot by 3 foot rectangular softbox. I'll pop that on a light stand, and that's it. That's the light ready to go. Let's get a model in, let's get shooting. So to help me out today, I've got the amazing Fern. Fern's going to be the model for this shoot, but before we take any photos, the first step is actually to control the light in the room. What we actually want is to record no light in the camera, and that doesn't mean turning off lights or covering up windows, because in fact, you do want some light in the room, otherwise your camera might struggle to focus. Instead, we're going to use the camera settings to control things. So, I'm going to be working in manual mode. I'm going to set my ISO to 200 ISO, that's the native for my camera. Your mileage may vary. I'm going to go with a shutter speed of 250th of a second. Now that's called my flash sync speed. Again, that's correct for my Olympus camera, but yours might be slightly different. Finally, there is the aperture. Now that's going to depend on the lens you're using. The lens I've got here opens up all the way to f2.8, so that's where I'm going to start. Let's take a picture in this light at those settings of Fern and see what we get. Here we go, Fern. And we get a very dark photo, but it's not completely black. We can just see a little bit of Fern coming through. And I want no flash, no picture. So I'm going to change my F number. I'm going to change it by 1 stop, that's 3 clicks, from f2.8 to f4. That will let less light into the camera, should give us a darker image. Okay, Fern, here we go, let's try this. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. No flash, no picture. That means the camera will only see the flash, and that's the thing I'm in complete control of. Of course, if I could still see Fern coming through, I'd have made my aperture smaller still and kept going. So step 2 is to get your light as close to your subject as you possibly can without it actually being in the frame. So what I've done is I've put my softbox off to the side, but it's not really at the side, because when you look at it, you can see that Fern, she's positioned towards the back of the softbox. Almost all of it is in front of her, and that's exactly the right position for this shot. I've also angled it a little bit as well. So once you've got your light in the right place, you need to work out how much power you need to actually light your subject. So let's work that out. So I'm using the same camera settings. They are not going to change from now on. It's only the power of the flash that I'm going to adjust. And I'm starting at its lowest power, 1/128th power for this particular speed light. Okay, Fern, let's just take a shot like that. Here we go. And as you can see, well, we can see a little bit of Fern coming through, but it's definitely underexposed. So I'm going to increase my flash by doubling the amount of light coming out. So that means for me, I'm going for 1/128th power to 1/64th power. That will double the amount of light that comes out. Here we go. And when you double the amount of light that you produce from your flash, you're adding 1 stop of light. So 1/64th to 1/32. And that looks absolutely perfect. So now we have the right amount of light on Fern, she's correctly exposed, and the background, well, we'll talk about that in the next step. So step 3 is all about controlling the background. Now, in the last shot, the background was more or less black, and that's down to something called light fall off, or the inverse square law. And if you want to find out more about that, we've got lots of videos right here on Adorama TV on that very subject. That works great if your background isn't particularly interesting, but we've got a really nice textured wall, and I'd like to include a bit of that in my picture. So what I've done is I've asked Fern to move closer to the wall. I've kept the distance between Fern and the light the same, so we should get exactly the same exposure. Have a look at this and see how it's changed. Okay, Fern, here we go. And this time, the flash is lighting both Fern and the background, so you can see both quite clearly in the shot. So we can actually control the brightness of the background by doing something called feathering the light, which is just another way of saying just slightly turning the light. As I angle it away from the background, less light will reach it, but the same amount of light, more or less, should reach Fern. Let's see how this affects that background. Here we go. So you can control the brightness of the background in 2 ways. The further away you are from it, the darker it is. The closer you get to it, the brighter it is. If you turn the light away from the background, it will become darker. If you turn your light towards the background, it will become brighter. So that's the basic principle. It's a really simple 3-step process, but of course you can also mix it up a little bit. So let's take a few shots like this and see what we can come up with. Fern, are you ready? Okay, here we go. For the dark background, try making your pictures black and white. The contrasty lighting looks fantastic in portraits when you make them monochrome. Remember, the key to this lighting setup is keeping the surface of that softbox as close to your subject as you possibly can. The closer you get it, the more soft the light will appear and the more contrast you'll get in your pictures. So this leaf blower is brilliant, and it never leaves my studio, it only stays in here. It's great for taking a fairly standard lighting technique and really making it dynamic. Now, if you don't have a studio-based leaf blower and you want to achieve the same look, well, you can. Get yourself a piece of card and do some wafting, or a 5-in-1 reflector will do a great job. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or you've got any questions, leave me a comment below. And of course, don't forget to click on that subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.